So, Michael Bay is back and he's bigger than before with bigger explosions, bigger battles than his previous three Transformers films released in 2007, 2009, and 2011, respectively. This story takes place 5 years after the Battle of Chicago that took place in 2011's Dark of the Moon and follows robotics expert Cade Yeager and his daughter as they discover the old truck they purchased is really the Autobot leader Optimus Prime, who's been in hiding. CIA agent Attinger, played by Kelsey Grammer, heads an elite group tasked with hunting down the Decepticons, but really they're working with an alien robot to hunt down and execute the Autobots. Meanwhile, a scientist has perfected transformium, molecularly unstable metal that has been created to create new Transformers out of, and this new creation causes many problems and leads to the big epic battle at the end. For me, this is typical Michael Bay. It's like he cannot make a film without at least 12 explosions minimum in it. I enjoyed some of the visuals in this, but overall was a bit bored. This being the fourth film in the live-action franchise, I don't feel like I was shown anything new that I could not have lived without. And so...
When I saw the runtime for this,
yeah.
I was dreading this because I saw the runtime. I thought it was a typo on IMDb, but sure enough, that is the actual runtime. This is over 2.5 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
Which is way too long for an action movie in the first place.
I think it's too long for a movie, period, the end, regardless of the subject.
But no, a documentary can be 2.5, 3 hours long. A biopic can be that long, too, as long as you stay poignant. But this film did not deserve to be that long. There was no reason for it to be that long. It kind of felt like it fused two main plots together. It spliced them together. The first plot had a beginning. The second plot didn't have a beginning, but it had an end. And it was like, well, we got two different kinds of movies here. Really, they could have split this into two different movies, but instead they pushed it all out as one, which, like you said, leads to boredom because you're sitting there for so long. My ass hurt by the end of the film because I was sitting there. And these are cushioned seats, folks.
I caught myself multiple times pulling my phone out and checking my email or hanging out on Facebook just because I was like, okay, I'm bored. And I think I even commented to you that every little action scene or fight scene that they had, if they had cut each one by a minute, then the movie could have been easily 30 minutes shorter because that's literally how much action is in this.
There's a lot of action. People go to this film expecting action, but certainly, I mean, there was plenty already, even at a 2-hour film, let alone an hour and a half. And the funny thing is, I went into this, dreading the runtime, but I wanted to give it a fair shot. So I didn't come in pessimistic about it, really. Just that the runtime was way too long, and I didn't want to sit there for 2.5 hours. But I wanted to give this a fair shot, and I actually really liked the beginning of the film. I would say the first 30 minutes or so, where it's all located in Texas.
You have some sort of weird fetish for.
I don't know. I just like the way Texas looks, especially on the big screen. It's nice. It looks, everything was shot really well and everything looked great. And, it got a little weird because Mark Wahlberg was supposed to be this born and raised Texan guy, yet his Boston accent was slipping through, or, at times it kind of got weird like that, but it was never to the point of, okay, I don't really want to watch this film right now. And then you also had at that time going the whole setup was the CIA and Lockdown.
That alien robot I mentioned.
Yeah, doing the whole hunting down all robots, mainly the Autobots, and trying to get to Optimus Prime. Lockdown was awesome. I thought he was really cool. And for someone that doesn't really, is not really a Transformers guy, I watched it as a kid and I had Transformers of my own. I was never really that. It wasn't like Ninja Turtles to me or anything like that. But Lockdown was awesome. And then the plot just kind of gets weird when the CIA shows up at Mark Wahlberg's place because he's got Optimus Prime that he found at this...
like abandoned theater.
Yeah, almost like an Alamo
stage.
Draft House type, very historical theater. And that's another thing, as they're rummaging him and him being Mark Wahlberg and T.J. Miller, who is a person that's in almost every freaking thing we're about to see. He was in How to Train Your Dragon 2. He's in this. He's coming up in something else. He does a lot of voices and so on and so forth. You know, he played a character I've seen him play before, but he plays it very well.
And I did enjoy him for that comic relief that he's so good at.
Yeah, and but my problem is we really couldn't get a sense of time with this because it was supposed to be set in pretty much present day.
Well,
So
it said
next
2016 is when it's supposed to actually be.
And they're looking through this theater, and he's pulling like, oh, that's a old IMAX thing, and it's just like, you know,
IMAX isn't old yet.
yeah, it didn't really add up. It's an alternate reality. I get that, but they're also basing it in this reality, and it gets murky for me there.
Yeah.
But then, as I was saying, as the CIA people show up to get Optimus Prime, that's when the movie just goes full, you know, absolute bonkers, and then you can't really follow it, right? I mean, here comes the Irish Subaru rally driver. That's the girlfriend or the girl's boyfriend, and it's just like
seriously, that was like a 20-minute car chase that we
it
could
was
have
a
definitely
very
done
long
without.
sequence, right? A very long sequence with some ridiculous stuff in it, and like you said, way too long. Could have cut it down at least 10, maybe even 15 minutes.
Yeah, or at least done it like montage style, to where like you can tell that it's like been multiple minutes and miles that have passed.
And then Stanley Tucci shows up, and he's
kind of like an eccentric scientist who's like all about money.
Yeah, this script is all over the place.
Did you get the feeling though that with this being the fourth one, and you know Transformers itself being, you know, a draw because so many people have enjoyed the previous films, that I kind of got the feeling that they just kind of said like, F it, let's just like throw something together and, you know, make some things blow up and people will come watch it and we'll still make our money. Well, I feel like they're not even trying.
Well, I know that I think they said they were done with it, but then Bay was like, oh no, I'll do another one or whatever, or another two or something. So I think this might be one of two that's coming. God. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. So we're in America, you know, we have the plot line of the CIA wanting to basically make their own Transformers. Mm-hmm. So they have no need for the Autobots anymore.
Right.
Autobots, just kill them off. We have this Transformium, this new metal, which we can craft our own. But the problem is they get that Transformium basically from, what's his name? Megatron. There we go. They get it from Megatron, and so Megatron's DNA basically goes into all these robots all these Transformers they're making.
And they're supposed to be able to be controlled by these scientists, but because of having used Megatron's genetics, if you will, these new Transformers have taken on like a mind of their own. So they deviate from the instruction and kind of go off on their own. Yeah,
absolutely. And at that point it becomes no longer is the CIA and Stanley Tucci the bad guy, it's Megatron, or he's now called Galvatron, exactly. So that's confusing in its own right.
Yeah, because it's almost like at that point we're watching a separate film.
Yeah,
like exactly. Forget everything you've already seen.
Like I said, it splices.
And then now we've got this.
Right, it splices into a whole different movie. I'm wondering if they have the reverse, the beginning to the second part of this film.
Yeah, maybe. That's
I don't know, and they're going to put that together for the next film. Overall, though, performance-wise, honestly, nothing too special. I like Wahlberg.
Well, going back though, all of this is happening in the U.S. and then all of a sudden we're in Asia.
Yeah, they go to China, right?
Hong Kong, I believe.
And so they have a bunch of scenes there, and oh man, it just gets crazy. Visuals are fantastic.
Which, of course, with Michael Bay, that's kind of what you go in expecting.
Yeah, but I think we should still give proper due to the people who made those visual effects because they're outstanding. I could never ever do something like that. It's just amazing what they can do with especially with the transforming scenes and so on and so forth.
And also considering like knowing how long it must take to do all those things with the graphics and everything, and knowing that it really hasn't been that long since the last film. Like, how much of this was actual filming versus all the behind the scenes everything. So, definitely credit where credit's due.
It's a very good looking film. But you've seen that before with Bay, and you've seen that before with the other Transformers movies. So, if you've seen the other movies and you're looking for more, you're not going to get it. It's going to be more of the same. And therefore, if you liked the previous films, you'll probably like this. If you didn't like the previous films, don't even bother. Unless you can find like a fan-made cut of the film where they cut out just so much of the unnecessary parts, and they trim it down to an hour and a half, then okay, watch that. But in its current state, when the DVD comes out, there's going to be deleted scenes. There's going to be even more.
It might end up being like one of the Lord of the Rings films had like 15 hours of like unseen footage, and that's what I can totally see happening with this.
Right, exactly. It's crazy.
Because it makes me wonder how much ended up on the cutting room floor.
Right.
When you consider that the story doesn't really flow and mesh well with the beginning. So.
I do wonder. I wonder maybe one of these days if we can get like a full cut of the film, and it's like 4.5 hours long.
Oh, I was going to say 7 hours.
Okay, well, 7 hours. And but I do salute it for the visual style of the film. It's eye candy. That's what it is. It's eye candy. The first 30 minutes of the film actually pretty
really
good. Yeah, actually pretty good. And it's a shame they went so far off course, or so far away from reality. And that's weird to say because we're talking about Transformers here, but I think everything that was based in reality, everything in that rural area, really helped the film almost endear itself to the viewer. And then they go to Chicago and everything's high tech and they're fighting in the clouds, and it's just oh my god, okay, fine. They went full on Transformers there. So but I give it a 3 out of 5. Translates, of course, to a 6 out of 10. So it's eye candy. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, but it gets so convoluted. It hurts itself with that 2.5 hour runtime, and it's just I can't recommend seeing this in its current state.
Mm-hmm. My rating on it, I've been waffling between a 2.5 and a 3, and I think I'm going to go with a 3 only because the first 30 minutes of the film plus the amazing visuals are what save it for me. The plot does nothing. Like I said, I was more interested in my phone than the screen.
That's never a good sign.
Definitely not. So, again, like you said, if people are fans of it, then, it's worth a gander if you have a few hours of your life to spare.